So what can you do if you're faced with mortgage payments that are much more than you bargained for? Joining me now is Bob Moulton, president of Americana Mortgage Group. Bob, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Jerry. Thank you.
You know, 7 straight weeks of mortgage rate hikes. I think people are getting very nervous, particularly those people in adjustable rate mortgages who are facing a scenario where their rates could go higher. What should they do now?
Well, if they've been in the home for several years and they had a 3-year adjustable rate mortgage or a 5-year adjustable rate mortgage, they should refinance into a fixed rate before they get up around the 7% level. This will give them the security of the fixed rate payment that they deserve, particularly if they're going to stay in the house for at least another 3 or 5 years or even longer.
So it's all about how long you're going to be in the house, right?
Absolutely. It wouldn't pay to refinance if they're only going to stay in the house for a couple of years, so they have to take a look to see how long they're going to stay in the house for, and that would make the most sense for them.
And that 2 years, you say, is really the tipping point.
It's tough to recoup the closing costs if they're only going to stay in the house for 2 years. So it's worth taking the interest rate risk and not spending the money on the closing costs.
Now, you bring up closing costs. What proportion of, say, the value of your mortgage is closing costs?
Generally, closing costs run about 3% of the amount that you're going to borrow. There's title fees, attorney fees, appraisal fees, and things like that. So when you do the cost-benefit analysis, you have to see how much money you're going to save on a monthly basis, divide that into the closing costs, and that'll give you your break-even point.
So given that the average home is about $220,000, we're talking a chunk of change here, thousands of dollars, in fact. Let's talk about people who are shopping for a home now and looking for a mortgage. What's your recommendation to them?
It depends, again, how long they're going to stay in the house for. And with house prices appreciating at double digits the last 5 years, some prospective homeowners are stretching their borrowing power by still going into interest-only mortgages. And what's become very popular over the last few months are 40-year mortgages. So the 40-year mortgages can save the homeowner 10% per year, 10% per month. It's safer than an interest-only mortgage, and it'll amortize over 40 years as opposed to 30 years.
And you'll be paying well into retirement, I guess. It seems to me like it'd be better just to find a cheaper house than to spread your payments over 40 years.
Well, when homeowners go out shopping and they see what they can afford and they see what the house is that they can pay for, they always have a little more expensive taste and not necessarily can afford it at that time. And what they take into consideration is where the income will be in a few years from now. So they're willing to take the risk, they're willing to look at the adjustable rate mortgages and grow into the house.
It's hard to tell, though, where your income's going to be. And you bring up a great point here, which is that people have been going into really riskier and riskier mortgages all the time. We've heard a lot of criticism lately from regulators saying that the industry should do more to keep people from going into these mortgages. Are you guys prepared for the kinds of foreclosures you might see if rates were really to spike?
Well, if rates really spike, what happens at the end of the term of these interest-only mortgages or adjustable rate mortgages, they're going to be tied to an index, they're going to have a margin. Their rates could be fully indexed 6, 7, or 8%. If they don't have the income to carry that, we might see a softening in real estate prices, you might see more foreclosures, you're going to see mortgages with derogatory credit become more popular, so we are getting ourselves prepared for that market right now.
And I think we've maybe gotten into mortgages that are a little riskier than we need at this point. Certainly with interest-only mortgages, those people could really be in trouble, and certainly the option-arm people where they don't even have to pay all of their monthly interest costs. People like that really need to opt for safety right now, don't you think?
I do. I think the people that do take the option-only mortgages, I was reading some statistics, 70% of those people defer the interest. 70% of them make the minimum payment. If they can pay extra principal, they should do it while they can. Same thing with the interest-only mortgage. If they can make extra principal payments, they should do that to avoid the risk at the end of the time period.
All right, Bob. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Jeff.